Welcome back to the Rent Roll Queen podcast. I'm your host, Tarsi Taylor. Today's episode is sponsored by Reebok, the Real Estate Business Owners Conference. Imagine finding a drug lab in your rent roll and not being insured. Today we speak with Laura from Property Insurance Plus about what you can do to mitigate the loss for your landlords and your business. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me, Tarsi.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. And today we are discussing landlord's insurance. So can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. So my name's Laura. I'm a BRM for Property Insurance Plus. So we are specialised insurer who does landlord and building insurance.
Awesome. So tell me, why should I, as a principal of a real estate business, have a landlord insurance company like yourself in my business?
So to start with, you want to have something that's specialised. You want to know what you're covered for. Your run-of-the-mill insurers will have things that are what we call defined events.
And what's a defined event?
So a defined event means that you're only covered for very specific situations. So whereas a specialised insurer will generally have a much broader cover.
Right.
So things like your tenant default, your loss of rent, things like that. You also want to be sure that you're covered if you need to be for your building insurance as well as your landlord insurance. And a lot of people actually don't know the difference and what they're actually covered for. So that's one of those things that you really do need to be very specific on, whether you need those covers as well.
And let's face it, people only look at their cover when something's actually gone wrong, right?
100%. And I'm guilty of this as well. And I've worked in the insurance industry for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
So until you have something go wrong, you generally don't look at your PDS. It's an unfortunate thing, but that is the case with most people.
Yeah, and with landlords, like, you know, I've been in real estate offices where it's like, oh, that's just too expensive, I'm not having it. I mean, expensive is a couple of $100 or, it's not a lot to cover your property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So look, your landlord insurance is generally, like you said, only a couple of $100.
Yeah.
Your building insurance does come more expensive, and it will depend on where it's located, what it's built of, things like that, whether it's a high flood risk, a high fire risk, all of those things. So you need to take all of that into consideration as well. But let's be honest, if you have something like a fire come through your property and you don't have building insurance, you're realistically only going to be covered for anything that's related to the actual landlord insurance, which could be your loss of rent.
So what about like damage to the building itself? You know, because not every tenant is good with their properties. So what happens there? So
we personally do have deliberate damage covered and accidental damage covered in our policy.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes. So there's all those sorts of things. There's sorts of things that you should be looking for when you're looking for your insurance. You want to make sure you're covered for those big events, even things like pet damage.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have pets nowadays, don't they? So that's 100%. Really important to be looking for it.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. And, you know, things that you just would not foresee happening. So let's be honest, look, you know, the PMs can only do so much. They are not there 24/7 watching what your tenants are doing all the time.
That's it, yeah.
So if you have things like a drug lab, we've had this occur. We've had plenty of claims, unfortunately, that where this does occur.
Yeah, right.
So things like if you've only got cover for your landlord, but it's a single dwelling building and you don't have cover there, you're only going to be covered for the things that are within the building that come under your landlord insurance. So it might still cover you for your loss of rent. And you have to remember, it takes time to repair damage and stuff, and that's all time you're missing out on that income.
It is time. Well, time is money, isn't it? So
absolutely.
And it's also like when you look at it from the perspective of a real estate business owner, when they're not receiving rent, they're not receiving commission. So it needs to be rented as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
And that's where your landlord's insurance would come in and getting them through as quickly as possible to obviously pay out.
And
so
that's
that the work can be done.
Exactly. And if you don't have that insurance there, you're fully relying on a 4-week rent for your bond.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if you have something major happen, what's that realistically going to cover you for?
Not much at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, not much at all. So with like business owners, you know, it's really important for them to offer that extra service to their landlords as well. Like, how do you see that working?
Oh, 100%. I think, look, you know, you have to look at it that it is an asset for both the landlord and the business owner, you've got to cover your asset. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're covering it to the best of your ability, because we all know even the best tenants can turn bad.
Unfortunately, yes, I've seen that happen. So I've experienced it myself when I owned a real estate agency as well.
Yeah, and that's it. And like I said, the PMs can't be there 24/7. Things happen in people's lives. People lose their jobs. Unfortunately, they can be under horrible circumstances where you're talking about things like domestic violence and things like that. And that can affect so many things. That could be that there's damage caused to the property. Yeah. It could be that they can no longer pay the rent because of their situation. And you want to make sure you're covered for these things.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm no stranger to all of that. So I completely understand the value that it actually brings. And for a business owner, it's also producing, when you partner up with somebody like yourself, some reoccurring income streams or referral income streams that can be produced in the business as well, which is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. And look, let's be honest, once you're looking at your rent roll and things like that, at some point most business owners will want to sell that on and use that as their retirement or whatever they want to do. You want to have as much income as you can. Yeah. And look, we do offer those things. We offer a referral fee for new business of $25 per policy. So if say for instance you have one policy that's landlord, you'll get $25 for that. If you also have building, that's an additional $25.
Yep. And that's how you actually gain different revenue streams within your business, that you're actually not, like, all you're doing is assisting your landlords with getting cover and actually renewing their landlord or building insurance. And you're also earning a revenue stream. But what I love about landlord's insurance and what I love about offering a different type of service to cover your rent roll is that you're actually giving value to your landlords.
Absolutely. And it also then encourages that you have better tenants, essentially, because you know that you're covering for these things and everything. But it's also that awareness of course, the best tenants can go bad.
Yeah.
But it becomes like a learning experience for everyone.
Oh, it does become a learning experience. And I've got this motto that is, plan for the worst, but expect the best. And by having landlord's insurance and building insurance or any type of insurance, you're literally like preparing for the worst.
Absolutely. And let's face it, that's what your insurance is there for.
Yeah.
It's there for you to claim on.
Yeah.
So if you have, like I said, a defined events, you're not going to find that out. Unfortunately, most people will not find that out until the absolute worst happens and then go, oh my gosh, I don't actually have cover for this.
Yeah. And then it's got to come out of their pocket.
And then it comes out of their pocket. And it's such a big investment for everyone involved that can ruin people.
Well, it can financially. And like we said before, for a few $100s to have landlord's insurance, and then obviously, I know it's a little bit more to cover your actual building, but over the scope of it all, it's a minuscule amount that you're actually investing. And this is where we need to see it, is it's not a cost, it's an investment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's be honest, your building and your landlord is more than likely going to be less than a month's rent.
Yeah, right.
So, look, there will be cases where it's slightly more.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, that could depend on the area. It could depend on a lot of things, whether it's a flood risk, a fire risk.
Yes.
Those sorts of things will impact your building insurance no matter what.
Yeah.
But you also have to take into account excesses as well. When you're looking for these insurances, you want to make sure that those excesses are also not going to be financially devastating for a landlord. Yeah. Because if they can't afford to pay the excess, so you want something that's going to have options.
I love that.
Yeah. So a lot of them will have very high excess, particularly on a building.
When we're talking high, what's it normally?
They can range anywhere from $600 to $5,000. Some of them, depending on their area, can go as high as $20,000.
Really?
So it just depends on the situation. Yeah. And also you have to take into account most of those things. That is also an option that you have.
Yep.
It does impact your premiums.
Yeah.
Not on your landlord insurance necessarily. Those are generally a fixed or nil excess.
Right.
But when you're talking about the building insurance, a lot of the landlords will go, well, it'll be cheaper if I go for this higher excess, but they don't take into account, could I actually afford to pay that?
Yeah.
If push came to shove.
Yep. Do I have the money in the bank account at any point in time if something was to go wrong that I can physically pay this immediately?
Exactly. And, just like financial hardship and thing can impact a tenant, it can also impact a landlord.
Yeah, and we are talking about, how to mitigate risks, but also how to mitigate risks in your financial situation as well. And like you just said about excess, and no one's really thought about it because it's like, oh, it makes my premium cheaper.
That's right. But can you actually afford it?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So we do actually offer options between $600 and $5,000 on your building. We do have set excesses, which are very low as nothing, or $250. They do vary as well. They do go up a little bit depending on a claim situation.
Yeah.
But these are the things that you should be looking for when you're looking for insurance. Is that excess going to be okay? You also want to look at insurers. Are they going to be okay with, I'll just take that out of a payout? Some insurers won't do that. So you need to take those things into account as well.
God, there's so much to insurance that I didn't even think about.
That's right.
And now I'm like thinking about, how can I have a better conversation as a property manager with my landlord? And even just by understanding that, I can provide extra value to be like, hey, do you have that money sitting anywhere? Well, like when you're choosing your excess, do you have this amount of money sitting in a bank account where if anything was to go wrong, it is solely there for the purpose of paying my excess, because you kind of need it sitting somewhere. And if you don't, would it be wiser to actually have a nil excess and a bit of a slightly higher premium, pay a slightly higher premium?
Definitely.
Than worrying about, is it going to be sitting somewhere? Because let's face it, with landlords and tenants and everybody, you never know what's around the corner, right? So what if you need to use that money for something else?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we all need to sort of consider. You also need to consider when you're looking at your insurance, your liability cover. This is always the forgotten insurance, unfortunately, and it's amazing how many liability claims actually do come through. And a liability claim could be something as simple as the tenant tripped up the stairs in the property. If they're injured, you're liable as a landlord to actually cover any costs that they might have medically.
Yep.
It's your responsibility to keep them safe. It could be complete, sheer, just pure accident. But unfortunately, you're still liable.
Yeah, right.
If they're out of pocket due to medical costs or anything like that. So you want to make sure you're covered for these things.
Is that all covered under the landlord's insurance?
Yes, it is. Yep.
That's fabulous.
So our policy covers you up to $20 million. That also covers if you've got a third party. So a tradesman comes into your property and gets injured. And it happens more often than you would think.
Oh my gosh, now we're going to, because we didn't even think, okay, it's not just your tenant, is it?
No, it's got to cover you for anyone who is on your property that could get injured or hurt or anything that happens with them.
Yep.
So you are completely, as a landlord, you are responsible for anything that occurs on your property.
That's insane, isn't it?
It is, yep.
But you do have to think about it because you do have tradespeople going in and out and anything could happen at any point in time.
And that's exactly right. So you want to make sure you have these covers in place. And look, they do vary from company to company. Some of them only offer a $5 million. In Australia, we tend to push that you should have a minimum of a $20 million liability across the board. But again, it's one of these things. People can opt for lower amounts thinking that they're okay. But if you have an absolute worst case scenario, these things can also drag out.
So does that increase your premium to have that, or is that actually a standard for you guys about the 20 mil?
That's a standard for us.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's included in our policy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. So I will say it is included with most landlord policies.
Yeah.
But that being said, again, people sometimes do, depending on who the insurer is, they do sometimes give you the option of having $5, $10, $20 million liability.
Yeah, well, they do in the commercial space. I know that for a fact. So, I mean, landlord's insurance is totally different.
That's right, yeah. So
it's so important to have.
And if you have legal expenses that come into play when you're talking about liability, you want to make sure that your liability cover is going to help you out there as well.
Yeah.
Because a liability claim, they can drag on for years and years and years. So that's something that you want to be covered for.
Fun.
They're not fun.
This is the thing, we're talking about something minuscule that you'll basically invest in that will basically save you on emotional stress. and financial burden later down the track.
Exactly. So if you don't have those covers in place, here is your worst case scenario. If you do have a tenant or a third party that does injure themselves on your property and you don't have any insurance, this is beyond financially devastating because 99% of them will go through court.
Yeah, that's something you want to stay out of too, because that's a lot more work on your property managers as well. So this is the other thing that we need to start thinking about in our agency. You know, time is money.
Absolutely.
So every time that something happens and we have to put a claim together on behalf of a landlord when something happens for their insurance company, we need to make sure that it's structured in such a way that it can happen quickly, and you know we can converse as well with you know the insurance company, but also that your property managers aren't investing additional time and resource into making that claim happen.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. So you want to also be going with someone who, like I said, specialises in these things so they can help you through all of it, because it is horrific going through an insurance claim, whether it's big or small.
Yeah.
It's no fun for anyone, let's be honest.
No, it's not fun for anyone. No one wants to go through it.
No one wants to go through it. It's time consuming. It's beneficial if you've got the PMs involved in your claims because they have all the paperwork, they have the trail, they have the photos, all of those things. And these are things that, as a landlord, that's what you're employing your property manager to do, to have all of that information there ready to go.
Yeah.
And look, you know, every claim is different.
Yes.
Some will take a very small amount of time to get through, get paid out, all of those things.
Yeah.
Other ones are a lot more complicated. And then that's where it's so important to have your property managers there and have them on board and keep those relationships great, because you want to be able to move things forward as quickly as you can. So there isn't that financial burden.
Well, I know as a business person that my time is extremely valuable. So it's really important to me that if I can outsource, you know, if there's an insurance claim and I can outsource that to somebody who can actually do all the legwork, then I will do so. Obviously, like when you're running a business as well, you know, it's important for business owners to, you know, have like an insurance fee in their management agreement so that if anything does happen, that they can do those hourly works on behalf of the landlord.
Absolutely.
But the landlord would then appreciate that because they don't have to physically do it and it's one less stress off them.
And that's exactly right. They only want to hear about it as a landlord. And look, I'm a landlord as well.
Yeah.
And the only time I want to hear about it is whether you've got additional questions that maybe the PM just isn't privy to, and that can happen.
Yes.
But the only time I want to hear about a claim from my property manager is this is where it's up to, this is the progress, and this is done.
Yeah, no, and I love that too. Have you got any like stories for us with regards to like anything? What's the worst case that you've ever seen?
So we've had a drug lab is probably the worst one I've seen. I've actually got a few stories. Actually, I could give you one for
how much
most
time
scenarios.
Do we have?
That's right. But we have had ones where there's been a drug lab, for instance, and this one happened in Victoria. So the property manager was doing their 3-monthly inspection, brand new property. So very first tenant, they had glowing references. They looked fantastic on paper. There was nothing that showed up that meant that we thought, you know, anything would be awry here. They did their 3-monthly inspection, and just prior to that, the police had bashed in the door because it was a grow lab. So they were growing marijuana. Now, that being said, the police bashed in the door. Obviously, the property manager is then down there. They had ripped out wiring. They had ripped out walls. The bathtub was obviously used for all sorts of things which was just shoved with soil and things like that. So the implications of that, and this was this particular landlord's very first investment property, so it was extra devastating for them. So you have to take into account they had all the time of decontaminating that property.
Yeah.
The damage caused by the police punching in the door. So there's that coverage as well. They then also had to then do the rewiring, all of these things. And in addition to this particular one, after they'd had to have all the appliances and things redone, all of those sorts of things, they had the appliances delivered to the property in between all the decontamination and all the rest of it. And then someone broke into the property and stole the brand new appliances.
Oh, no.
So these poor people, now they were fully covered for this.
Yep.
And this is because they had their building and their landlord cover. So they had their loss of rent while they were waiting for all the damages to be repaired.
Yep.
They then had the decontamination of the property and the damages to the building, the rewiring, all of those things, that's all covered. Other insurers would have said, well, it was an illegal thing that happened there, so not our problem.
Yeah, wash my hands with it.
100%, exactly. So it was...
Oh, that poor landlord. I actually really feel for the landlord because that is absolutely horrific.
Absolutely.
But it does actually happen. So,
it does happen.
I have worked in businesses where I've seen like meth labs and the whole lot go down. And I mean, trying to get that out of the building is so
and you
difficult.
need specialised people to come in and decontaminate as well. So you need to take that into account too, that you want to make sure you're covered for these things.
And the thing is, like, not every tenant's going to be like that, thank God. Right. However, in the situations where you do have that, and unfortunately it is something that us as property managers really do need to take into consideration. And not even that, as a business owner, you have to protect not only your tenants and your landlord, but you also have to protect your property managers because they're exposed to those sorts of things.
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. And things like their time and stuff. If you've got a tenant who's just decided that they're basically just going to be squatters. You've got to go to QCAT, for example, or VCAT or wherever else you need to go. You also want to take into account, are you going to be covered for things like if you have to get the sheriff involved? Those things cost money.
They do.
And they're a big expense. They're not a little expense. It costs a lot of money to go through that whole thing.
Yeah. And that's the downside of owning a property. Well, being a landlord, unfortunately. However, the highs basically outweigh the lows.
Absolutely.
But if you're covered with landlord's insurance and building insurance properly by reading and asking the right questions, I guess, when you're actually on the phone to the insurance company, and for a business owner, understanding the partnership that you have with your insurance company, like yourselves, if you've actually got like a clear understanding of what those policies actually hold, you're able to relay that to your landlords and tenants so much better.
And look, I do have like a letter that we've put together as a company, and it's just a letter, and we allow our real estate agents to brand it themselves, and it asks the questions. What is your cover? Ask these questions of your insurer.
Yeah.
Are you covered for rent default? Are you covered for pet damage? Are you covered for loss of rent? Do you need building cover?
Yeah.
And it's just a standard letter. They can use it in their landlord packs. And it just gives them a bit of an overview of these are things I should be looking for when I'm looking for landlord insurance.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. A lot of landlords will go with their own insurer, like they got their car insurance or their house insurance somewhere else, and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go and look at that. But instead, they really need to start looking into specialised insurance that is,
100%.
To make sure that they are on par together.
That's right.
And then make a better decision.
That's right.
But it is up to the property managers and the business owners to actually fully understand those policies before going out. And that's the thing. When you start looking at what we do as a property in property management, it's insane. Like, you also got to know what the insurance policies do. It also brings reoccurring income into your business if you've got those partnerships. Like, it's all those little things, and it also save you time and money later on because those landlords will go, oh my God, thank you so much for giving me that amazing cover. Look at what it's just done for me.
Exactly. As opposed to, if something goes wrong, let's be honest, the landlord's not going to sit there and go, I'm going to go after the tenant. Yeah. They're going to be mad at the property manager.
Yeah. And sometimes it's completely out of our hands.
Oh, so, and exactly. And, and no one's expecting a property manager to be completely fluent in insurance cover. That's why we have that letter that comes out and says, ask them, does your cover do these things? And then if they do want to make those decisions as a landlord themselves, they can ring up the insurer. They can run through those questions.
Yeah.
And then they'll know what they're covered for as well.
There is so much to insurance, it's not funny. And I think that what we'll do now is I'm just going to provide all of your details, if that's okay, in the caption. And then everybody who wants to reach out to you to ask more questions about the landlord's insurance policy that you guys cover, they can do so, because honestly, I've seen the cover and it's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So I highly recommend that people reach out to you, Laura, and get in touch and just have those conversations, because it does bring a lot more value to their business, to their clients, to also their property management team, and we want to protect ourselves for the best.
Absolutely. And look, from us, if you've got your property management team wants some extra training, we're more than happy to provide that too. We can come out to you, we can go through claim scenarios, we can go through what we can actually cover for you and all of those things.
So you support the agency as well?
100%, yeah. They're our bread and butter at the end of the day.
No,
and
that's fantastic.
That's who we want to protect as well.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show, Laura. It was great to have you.
No, thank you so much for having me.